Long ago, when the world was bright and full of stories, an evil wizard gained the power to touch the face of God. Narrativa, goddess of stories and weaver of our world, banished him to the void, but not before he stole a piece of her divine essence. With this newfound power, the wizard lay a dread curse upon all the world, the Glyph Purge, which struck from the minds of all mortals the knowledge of how to read and write. Now, all that stand between the Isle of Meosha and an age of endless ignorance are the bards, who tell stories of distant lands, exotic creatures, and brave heroes. This is one such tale.
Zurabak. You reside in the trackless, treacherous, incredibly deadly expanse of bogs and swampland known as the Briar Marsh. It gets its name from the thorn-choked vines, roots, and plant life that runs rampant in this part of Meosha, and it dominates the entire southern tip of the island from the mountain range known as the Gates to the north, all the way to the ocean to the south. This place was dangerous even before the Glyph Purge, and it has grown only more remote and only more dangerous afterwards. This place is renowned for the rare flora and fauna that live only in this region of the island, and for that reason, traders, trappers, hunters, poachers have made this place a killing ground in one way or another for countless generations. You are a member of the Circle of the Serpent, the most powerful and expansive druid circle living in this part of the world. Truly the only real druid circle of note in this entire part of Meosha. You, however, do not live amongst the circle. You prefer to live on your own. And so you wake up one fine morning in your shack. Tell me about your shack, Zurabak. How do you live?
Well, it's a lovely shack. It's got 4 walls. Yeah, there's probably a doorway. No door, though.
No, who needs a door? That's keeping the nature out. You don't want that.
Probably 2 windows. Not a very up-kept shack.
Sure. You can barely tell it apart from the nature around it, I would assume.
Probably half decayed at this point.
Right.
From the general swampery.
And you share this shack with your animal companion, Snake, who is a snake.
His name is Snake.
And
he is a snake.
What type of snake is he in particular? Is he a bitey one? Is he a constricty one? Is he a poison one?
I'm pretty sure he was the constricty one.
Okay, so
possibly the bitey. Who knows? We'll find out.
So Zurabak, as a half-orc, you have a unique place amongst your people. The druids of the Circle of the Serpent, of course, make up a variety of creatures. There are humans, there are elves, there are even a few full-blooded orcs, but half-orcs are a little rare, stuck between 2 worlds, if you will. And you, always loving your personal space and your privacy, have decided to live separate from your people, but you are still a member of that circle and are still assigned tasks from the leader of the circle, which is why you are not surprised when you wake up on this fine morning in your shack next to your faithful animal companion Snake when a large monitor lizard crawls its way, sliding its belly along the ground right into your front door and stares you in the eye with intelligence and intent.
I stare back.
You do. You lock eyes with this creature for a little
with
bit.
Possibly intelligence and maybe some intent.
You lock eyes with this noble and mighty lizard, this reptile, and it opens its mouth and speaks in common, and says to you, Zurabak, it is pleasant to see you. You seem well. The tongue flicks out from its mouth, testing the air. And you can tell from the tone of voice and the manner of speech that this is the leader of your circle, Trapjaw, the arch druid, who oversees the Circle of the Serpent, who sees to the care and well-being of the swamp and all the creatures and plants that live within. And he says, I have a task for you this day, if you wish. Do you still serve?
I nod my head.
As I had hoped. There are still many traps laid out in this home of ours. Rusted, broken, some yet unsprung. They lie in wait to snare whatever unfortunate beasts wander into them. I would like you to go out into the thicket of mangroves and find and destroy whatever traps you happen to come across. Can you do this? Your work, as always, is appreciated. Find as many as you can. Keep them from being dangerous to our brothers and sisters. If you return to us with a large enough haul, I may have another task for you. In town. I know how much you love to consort with the people that live in the houses. And with that, Trapjaw, in the form of this monitor lizard, turns on its tail, you might say, and slithers out of your shack, back into the swamps, and quickly disappears. And so your task is set before you. How do you go about doing this?
Well, I grab my 10-foot pole.
A classic Dungeons & Dragons tool, too often overlooked in the equipment buying phase.
And I go outside to my lovely raft.
Fantastic. This raft is your vehicle, your way through the swamps. Your main means of transportation through the brackish black water that dominates these wetlands. You know exactly the grove of the thicket of mangroves that Trapjaw mentioned. But this swamp is treacherous. There are assassin vines. There are quicksand. There are dangerous animals and plants of all shapes and sizes lingering in this place. To get to the mangroves, go ahead and roll me a survival check to see how you make your way.
Well, I rolled a 2, so that comes out to a 10.
Fantastic. That is the power of a druid that knows how to allocate his skill points. Fantastic.
You mean just dump all of them into survival?
Yeah, that's pretty important. So, Zurabak, the half-orc, you get your 10-foot pole, you head down to your raft, your animal companion, Snake, following after you. Let me ask you a quick question just visually so I can get this down. Does Snake follow after you, or do you wear Snake?
It depends on where we're at.
Fantastic.
More often than not, probably where in more dangerous situations. He is bitey, I looked.
Okay. Oh, so he's a viper?
Yes.
Oof. Poisonous viper. He's got the hood and shit.
He's very, very bitey.
Gotcha. Cool. So, with Snake wrapped around your arm, you head down to your raft and you make your way through the swamps. With the 10, you are perfectly able to navigate the dangers. You find a layer of mud maws that you are able to work your way around. I'll let the listeners at home look those up if they'd like.
I don't poke those with my stick.
You don't. They're very, very dangerous. You work your way around a nasty snaggle of assassin vines. They're
I don't poke those with my stick.
They're strands like clawed hands snatching out for you. And you're able to safely make your way to this thicket of mangroves with no problem. Their roots arch like the legs of spiders high out of the water and then dive deep back in. It's a tangled maze with a few spots of dry ground between, and you set about your work. What's your method for finding these here traps?
Well, you see, I'm going to use my eyes, and then if I see one, I'm going to poke it.
Fantastic, tried and true. Why don't you go ahead and roll me a search check to try to locate some of these old traps left behind by hunters of old.
Not bad, not bad. A 19 overall.
Fantastic, that's very good. Your keen eyes, so accustomed to this environment, are very deft at picking out the things that don't belong. You work your way through meticulously, testing the ground and the spaces between these roots with your 10-foot pole, and you are able to locate quite a few traps. You see a few lengths of razor wire that have been strung up between some roots, which you are able to dislodge and throw onto your raft. You see
I poke it with my 10-foot pole.
There you go. Fantastic. You find a few bear traps that have been rusted and half submerged in the water that you are able to take care of, dispatch swiftly. As you are making your way through these traps on your raft, tapping along the ground and moving through these things, I need you to roll me a reflex saving throw.
I don't wanna. Well. Yep. 4.
That is not a very high number, and thus will not be a very good result. So, as you make way through these traps, your keen eye spot many of them before you even come upon them, and with the tools you have and your very careful method, you're able to disarm a good amount of them. But as you make your way through, you just miss one. Just one. That's
all it takes.
It's all it takes. There's one small snare. It's like a rabbit snare. It's really just a length of wire coiled in a loop meant to snag someone's foot. And as you make your way through a particularly thick cluster of these mangrove roots, you do not see it, and you get stuck in it. Your foot slips right in that loop. It holds tight to you, and just the momentum of your leg swinging snares it shut and starts to kind of bite into your skin. As soon as that happens, a growl rises up out of the swamp, and you see a very hungry-looking animal slither its way out of the water, not 10 feet in front of you. And what you see is what looks like a wolf. It is bedraggled. It is hungry looking. You can see its ribs through its sides. Its fur is matted and damp, and you can see why it slithered out of the water at you. This thing's leg, its hind leg, seems to have been caught, just like you, in this trap and in this snare This old, rusted bear trap has seemingly shattered this poor beast's back leg, and it is pulling itself along towards you with a feverish desperation in its eyes, like you are the meal it needs to live another day. It's 10 feet away from you. It seems to have enough gumption to start to close the gap. What do you do?
Well, I don't want to get eaten.
That's, it's nature.
General life goal. I'm going to roll a handle animal to improve its disposition.
Fantastic. So you're going to utilize your druidic skills in communing with nature and handling animals to try to win this thing over.
15.
That's very good. So
also
this
where the rest of my points went.
That's a good call, especially for situations like this. So this wolf, soaked, broken, starving, nearly crazed, drags itself over in your direction, trying to get an easy meal, and you lock eyes with it, and you use your druidic abilities to just empathize with it. Where a normal traveler or adventurer might freak out, lash out at this thing, or scream, you calmly lock eyes and help this thing realize that you are an ally and not a meal. It noticeably calms down. Is there anything in particular you do to kind of appease this wolf, or do you just sort of like Vulcan mind meld with it? What's your strategy here? Because it definitely works.
Probably the intense stare and some growling here and there.
Nice.
You know,
Oh yeah, you got to speak its language. Yeah. So you
gotta
you
get down on its level.
Yeah. So you lock eyes with this desperate, broken animal, and you growl yourself. You hold its attention completely, and you let a low, rolling growl escape your lips. And this thing stops in its tracks and looks at you and lowers its head. It seems tired, really tired, and it allows a small whine to escape before it just sort of like lays down on its good side and just sort of looks up at you, helpless. You have pacified this creature. What's your next move?
Well, I suppose I should get unsnared.
That'd be a good place to start, yeah. So you can roll me a strength check to snap this thing. You could roll me an escape artist to try to slip free, or a disable device if you want to be super roguey about it.
Well, so what I heard is I can roll a strength check.
There you go. Being a half-orc, strength is nothing new to you.
Ooh, that's quite a big number. 23.
That is definitely enough to do it. As I said before, this thing was like designed for rabbits, so though it snares you for a moment, after you pacify this wolf, you look down, grab it with your hand, and just snap it, like breathing, like it's nothing. You snap this thin wire, untangle it from your leg, and you have freed yourself. So, you have freed yourself. What's your next move here? There's still a horribly broken, hungry-looking beast before you.
I suppose I get closer to it to see the damages to its leg and what did it.
So, luckily, this one's pretty easy, straightforward. As far as what's wrong with this creature, it's starving, basically. You can tell it hasn't eaten in a very long time. Like I said, you can see its ribs through its skin. Its skin's hanging off its bones. It looks sallow. It looks very weak. And the most apparent injury is its hind leg, where there is still a trap affixed to it. It looks like some nasty bear trap has snapped shut on this wolf's leg. It is rusted and jagged. It is not friendly. This is not a catch and release kind of thing. And its back leg has been just broken. While it was walking up to you, was sort of dragging it halfway behind it. It is rough.
Well, I suppose first things first is to get the trap off.
Yep. So yeah.
So strength check.
Strength.
Is what I heard.
Yep.
Also
Occam's
a
razor.
very high number, 22.
That is very good. Yeah, you walk up to this creature, and carefully as you can, you get your powerful half-orc hands around this trap, and you slowly, methodically pry it open with your bare hands. The trap relents, opens up, and the wolf quickly snatches its ruined leg out of its clutches, and the thing, like, it's a wolf, but you can tell this thing like breathes a sigh of relief. This thing like lets out another, small thin whine, but it is absolutely thankful for this relief. I'm assuming you throw that trap along with the pile of other ones on your raft.
Onto the pile.
Yep. All right. So yeah, this thing, it tries to stand up again, but it's definitely favoring its other legs and kind of, it thinks like, oh, I can go, but it's like, oh no, I can't go.
Going's hard.
Yeah. Tries to frolic a little bit, falls on its face. It's very sad.
Well, I suppose I should do something about the damages.
One might.
I cast Cure Light Wounds.
Channeling your druidic healing magic to cure this beast, this noble creature.
For a whopping 3 points of healing.
Fantastic. So you place your hands upon this wolf. You call upon the power of nature, the primal forces that you serve, and your call is answered. Divine light shines in your hands, and this light passes from you into the wolf's body, and before your very eyes, as you call this healing magic into it, the bone sets, the wound closes, and this wolf, though still definitely hungry looking, still sallow, stands up, tests the leg, puts all of its weight on it, doesn't whine, doesn't wince, and looks you dead in the eye for a good 10 full seconds, and just thanks. And then it lets out a long, low, deep howl. And you hear his howl answered by a pack of wolves that are surprisingly close. And the wolf runs off to join its pack. You continue on with your work, I assume, trying to
Back
collect
to
these
poking
traps.
traps.
Yep. Get your 10-foot pole, poke these traps. You are able to...
Every day I'm poking.
Every day you're poking. You're able to get a pretty good haul. You collect a good 24 of these things, and man, every time you pull one of these out of the water or out from between the roots of some tree, you are just assailed by evidence of the brutality of mankind, of civilization. Druids gain sustenance from the forces of nature themselves, but even they hunt. Animals kill each other to survive. They eat each other to survive. It's just part of nature. But these twisted metal death traps are a horrible view into the destructive creativity of civilization. They are jagged, spiked, awful, mangling devices, and you get a pretty good haul, a pretty good stack of these on your raft. And as you keep along your merry way, you hear something else, something above and incredibly different from the nature sounds around you. You hear the call of the herons as they fly between the trees. You hear the hissing and growling of the reptiles. You hear the swishing of the fish in the shallows. Then you hear music.
I get my stick ready.
You hoist your 10-foot pole like a lance as you creep along lazily in your raft, holding it out defensively before you. But yeah, you hear music. It is piping over the sounds of nature all around you, and it is an almost alien sound here, not just because it's not part of the natural world, but because you can't remember the last time you've heard music.
We might be a tad bit in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely nowhere. Yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, let me just ask, because your character is mysterious, and even the dungeon master doesn't know the depths of the mystery.
Ooh, mysterious.
When's the last time you heard music? When's the last time Zurabak heard music? It's been probably a pretty long time, right?
Yeah, probably hasn't done a run to town where they had active music going for probably a very long time.
Yeah. So for the first time in months, maybe a year or so, you hear music. You hear a flute being played. It is a lively tune, a happy tune.
They clearly do not know where they are at.
No, they don't. Yeah, it is a sharp contrast to your surroundings. The death and rot and decay everywhere. It seems at odds with the swarms of biting mosquitoes and the damp, heavy air, but it definitely cuts through the sounds of the swamp very deftly. What do you do?
Slowly row my way over while still picking up traps.
All right, so you go about your work and try to make your way towards this alien sound. Go ahead and roll me a listen check to see how well you can follow it.
L for listen. 22.
22. Man, great rolls today, Parks.
Except for that 4 earlier.
Well, you can't win them all, but yeah, very very good.
You can try.
And why shouldn't you? Yeah, your ears are keen. You pick it up. You follow along your normal path. You get about a half dozen more traps into your raft, which now is like sagging under the weight of all of these horrible little devices. It looks like your raft now looks like a set from the Saw movies. There's just a bunch of mangled metal bits designed to trap things.
Gonna
all
need
over
a bigger boat.
And yeah, you round a corner. You round a very tall, massive tree sprouting out of the swamp, and as you round the corner, you see a strange sight. You see a pack of wolves.
Are you ready to poke them?
Amongst that pack of wolves is the skinny-looking, starved wolf that you freed earlier, that you healed. It seems that this is the pack that answered his howl earlier. There are about 8 of them. All seated, which is the weird thing. Wolves wouldn't be that weird, but they're all seated on their haunches, all facing the same direction. And seated across from them, playing a flute, the music from which you followed here is something completely out of the ordinary. You see a gnome. There's a short man, 3 foot nothing, with a shock of snow white hair and these bright blue eyes, a little too big for his face. He's got this huge beak of a nose with a crooked bend in it, and he is playing this lively, happy, jolly song on a flute, and these wolves are all sitting on their haunches facing this flute player, this gnome, and just listening. They're not attacking him. They're not growling. They're not insisting that he leave their territory. They are just an audience to his playing It's one of the strangest things you've ever seen.
Well, clearly now I need to poke him so the wolves can go eat.
Yeah. Yeah, you're about when you round the corner and spot him, you're about 50 feet away. What do you do? Do you
I slowly row my way over.
Do you make
while
any
still getting traps?
job first?
Job hasn't changed.
Yeah. No, you find like 2 traps just on your way over to this guy playing the flute. I assume you don't attempt stealth in any way, shape, or form. That'd be pretty hard while you're snapping your way over there. Yeah, you retrieve a couple more traps and throw them in your boat, trap fishing. Yo, I'll go out trap fishing. Sorry. You make your way over. As you get a little closer, this flute player takes note of you. He had his eyes closed, just really into the music. But he opens his eyes and takes note of you as you splash around in the waters, approaching. And as he sees you, he stops playing. He puts the flute to his side, and the moment that the music stops coming out of this fucking instrument, all of these wolves, they're not shocked or aggressive, but they all just stand up, kind of shake their heads a little bit, and turn tail and take off. They run out back into the swamp. As one pack, the thin, hungry wolf that you healed kind of trailing along behind, but still keeping pace on that newly repaired leg. And the gnome heaves a sigh of relief, looks at you and says, "Oh, thank the lady. A person. I have been wandering through this fetid wasteland for days, looking for a person. All I've met so far are animals and plants of varying sizes and levels of lethality. These wolves were a welcome change of pace, the surprisingly captive audience, though I was forced to make them that way for fear that they'd eat me if I stopped playing. Thank you for the distraction, good sir."
I point in a direction.
Is that where town would be? Oh, you saved me twice in one day with 2 simple actions. I thank you. I must say, Trapjaw has you doing some very particular work out here, Zurabak.
I poke him with my stick.
Excellent. You take your 10-foot pole and you give him a little jab, and he steps back. Oh, ow, oh, my word. So, very, just as strong as they said you were. I'm not trying to spy on you or take you off guard in any way, shape, or form. If I'm being honest, though, I came into this swamp looking for something. You are the druid Zurabak, correct?
Yes.
Born on the battlefield, taken from the most horrible of conditions and raised by the circle of the serpent?
So they say.
I am Sebastian Weaver, Bard Extraordinaire of the College in the Everspring Mountains. There is something in these swamps that I'm trying to find. It is very important. And it could mean, well, everything. Let me put it to you another way. I'm working on a story. It is an epic tale of heroism, of salvation, a story about ending the glyph purge, and a story about saving all of Miosha. I have almost everything I need to write this story. Except the main characters. I was hoping you might be one of them.
I poke him with my stick.